Greetings, my name is Mark Amaro Pinkham. I'm the director of the Order and Mystery School of the Seven Rays. I'll be your host during this two-part presentation on the Gnostic conspiracies and the coming Gnostic civilization. We in the Order and Mystery School of the Seven Rays are dedicated to bringing you complete and easy to understand video presentations such as this one that, as accurately as possible, reveal the true history of the human race on Earth, much or most of which has been hidden. If you would like to be alerted of any new videos we produce, please click on the subscribe button below. In this video, I'll present a short history of the Gnostics, as well as their attempt to produce a worldwide Gnostic civilization. Most of this information is contained in my book, World Gnosis, the Coming Gnostic Civilization, that has recently been revised and expanded. Now, the Gnostic tradition on Earth originated in the Pleiades, and it was brought to our planet by star missionaries from the Seven Sisters. The Pleiades is the home of the universal goddess Sophia, and it was referred to by the Egyptian Gnostics as the seven pillars of Sophia. According to their legends, the Gnostics maintained that Sophia created the physical universe from her seat in the Seven Sisters. Now, at one point, according to the Gnostics, Sophia decided that her children on Earth should know their divine nature. So she sent to Earth her son with the Gnostic alchemical path that contained the practices to activate the inner alchemical force of Kundalini in the human body that would awaken the inner centers associated with self-knowledge. The Hindus refer to her son as Sanat Kumara or Kartikeya, which is a name meaning son of the Pleiades. They also call him the Yan Pandita, the first teacher of Gnosis. Kartikeya is symbolically represented as a young boy with 6 heads. The 6 heads represent the 6 visible stars of the Pleiades. When Kartikeya or Sanat Kumara arrived on Earth, he transmitted his spirit inside our planet and thereby became the planetary logos, the will and the mind of Earth. By another name, he became the king of the world, whose will reigns supreme on the surface and within our planet. In this way, he has been able to oversee and facilitate the spiritual evolution of humanity. In other religions and other parts of the world, the king of the world has been represented by different names and different forms. He has, in Sumeria, for example, been known as the savior Enki, who brought to Earth the Gnostic alchemical path. He's also been referred to as the Peacock Angel or the Peacock King by the Yazidis, as well as King Melchizedek of the Jews, Dionysus of the Greeks, Osiris of the Egyptians, Masao of the Hopis, as well as many other names and forms. The Middle Eastern Gnostics maintained that the original teachings of the son of Sophia were transmitted to humanity in the Garden of Eden when he took the form of the serpent on the tree. In this form, the Gnostics refer to him in their ancient texts as the first instructor. He was forever known by the Gnostics as the first instructor of the Gnostic alchemical path. Since there were many gardens of Eden, each of which corresponded to the beginning of a new cycle of time on Earth, there were numerous scenarios similar to the one represented in Genesis in the Bible at different times on our planet. These gardens of Eden have also been called the Gardens of the Dragons because the son of Sophia in his serpentine form was assisted in his transmission of the Gnostic alchemical path by enlightened adepts called both serpents and dragons. They were called that because they had completely consumed and been evolved by the inner serpentine alchemical force of Kundalini. In Genesis in the Bible, they are known as the sons of God who came to earth and mated and taught the daughters of men. Now, the gardens of the dragons are represented by the red dots on the map on your screen. They include Eridu, which is the Eden of Enki, as well as Mount Kailash in Sri Lanka, which are the two Edens associated with Sanat Kumara. Also Kurdistan, which is the Eden of the peacock angel, Giza in Egypt, which is the Eden of Osiris, Atlantis, which is the Eden of Neptune Poseidon, and Arcadia, the Eden of Dionysus. Now, this map shows Sri Lanka when the island was part of the continent of Lemuria. At that time, it was a garden of the dragons known as Serendib. Now, the Eden of Serendib occurred in a place now known on Sri Lanka as Katargama, which means the city of Kartikeya. The first instructor, Kartikeya, still resides there and has been known recently to manifest as a boy, a snake, a dog, and a peacock. In the picture on the slide, the boy Kartikeya holds a small spear known as a vel. Now, the vel is his true symbol. It represents him as the embodiment of Kundalini. The vel represents the path of Kundalini in the human body. Its shaft represents the spine, and its blade denotes the third eye of Gnostic wisdom that the Kundalini rises up and activates. This is truly how Kartikeya works within a person. As the Kundalini, he works to awaken them to their Gnostic wisdom. Now, Gnostic wisdom is not intellectual information that one gains from their environment, but it's intuitive wisdom that emerges spontaneously within a person. Now, some of the Gnostics who originated in the Serendib Garden of the Dragons were the Mandeans. After learning the secrets of the Gnostic alchemical path from the first instructor and his entourage, they migrated west and successively became members of the Sumerian, Persian, and Egyptian civilizations. The Mandeans were the baptizers. Through ritual, they activated the power of Enki within flowing rivers that then surrounded and entered the body of a person getting baptized. Enki is a name for Kartikeya. He is therefore the Kundalini that enters a Mandean and alchemically evolves, transforms, and activates their Gnostic awareness. Eventually, the Mandeans traveled to Palestine and united with the Jewish Essenes to produce the Gnostic sect of Nazarenes. The ancient practice of Mandean baptism was regularly practiced by the Nazarenes, especially the Nazarene John the Baptist, who activated the Kundalini of his principal disciple Jesus during his baptism in the River Jordan. The Gnostic teachings of John the Baptist and the Mandeans were spread by John's disciples, first in the Middle East and then around Europe and other parts of the globe. This is why John is commonly referred to as the founder of Western Gnosticism. Initially, it was John's disciples, Simon Magus, Dorotheus, Jesus, Mary Magdalene, and John the Apostle, as well as their disciples and students who spread the Gnostic wisdom of John and the Mandeans throughout the entire Middle East. In the 3rd century, the spread of the Gnostic wisdom of John the Baptist and the Mandeans was taken up by the prophet Mani. Mani was born of a Mandean father and a Persian mother. And he's known to have spread the Gnostic alchemical path all the way from Spain to China. And in doing so, he founded what could be called the very first Gnostic empire. What characterized Mani's empire is that the institutions of the people within that empire were designed to assist them in achieving Gnosis. Now, Gnostic civilization and the various aspects of such a civilization will be expanded upon further in part 2 of this 2-part series. Now, Mani was eventually executed for his beliefs, and his empire was then slowly dismantled until only pockets of Manichaeans survived. One such pocket was in southern France. The Manichaean Gnostics there eventually united to become the Cathars, and it was they that produced the Gnostic civilization of the Cathars. Now, when the Catholic Pope got wind of the Cathars and their culture and civilization, he immediately felt threatened by them and labeled them heretics, and soon signed a bull that triggered their massacre and quickly ended their Gnostic civilization. When they were soon attacked by the Inquisition, the Cathars did at least have some protection provided them by other Gnostics, and these were the Gnostics of the Knights Templar, who then carried forth the Gnostic flame after the genocide of the Cathars. Now, the Templars themselves had become Gnostics soon after they were formed in 1118 CE, when their first Grand Master Hudipeans also became Grand Master of the Johannite Gnostic tradition that had been founded by John the Baptist 1100 years earlier. Besides becoming Johannites, while in the Holy Land, the Templars also assimilated the Gnostic alchemical rites that they learned from the Sufis. These Sufi rites were part of the Sufi alchemical path of the rose. The red rose symbol of this path denoted the red fire of Kundalini that is activated through alchemy, and the death and spiritual rebirth it culminates in. Having fully immersed themselves in this alchemical path of the Sufis, when the Templars returned to Europe, they did so as Knights of the Rose Cross. Now, when in Europe, the Templars split into a military and a secular order. The secular order has been called the Order of Sion, which is actually the Order of John, because Sion is the Welsh name for John. Those in the secular order eventually banded together with other alchemists who had similarly studied with the Sufis and learned the path of the rose. And so the Knights Templar banded with them to form the Order of the Rosicrucians. In time, a patchwork of Rosicrucian sects covered Europe. The membership included active alchemists, as well as intellectuals and members of royal families who met secretly to avoid Christian scrutiny and persecution. One such royal activist, an alchemist, was the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolph, who had both alchemists and Kabbalists serving as his court in Bohemia. And here is the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolph with an alchemist. Another royal with links to the Rosicrucians was Queen Elizabeth I. Her mentor was the Rosicrucian John Dee. Elizabeth sent John Dee on secret diplomatic missions throughout Europe to promote and help orchestrate a conspiratorial plot to form a confederacy of nations wherein the Gnostic alchemical path could be safely and legally observed, and also where the various institutions of those nations involved with the confederacy would be designed to assist their citizens in achieving Gnostic awareness. The subversive plot of Queen Elizabeth and Dee was eventually put into play during the reign of Elizabeth's successor, James I. And it began with the strategic marriage of James's daughter, Princess Elizabeth, to Frederick V, the Elector Palatine of the Rhine. During a ceremony held December 27th, which is John the Apostle Day, the marriage contract of Elizabeth and Frederick was finalized, and the marriage thus received the blessing of the Gnostic Johannite lineage. Now, after their wedding took place in London the following February, the royal couple then went south and were received in Heidelberg as saviors. Heidelberg in Germany was a headquarters of the Gnostic alchemical path at the time. With great hope for the future, Elizabeth and Frederick rode in a great procession to the streets that were bursting with alchemical symbols and swarming with fresh red roses. Unfortunately, problems in the fledgling Gnostic Confederacy arose almost immediately. Trouble began to brew when Rudolf abdicated as Holy Roman Emperor, and the citizens of Bohemia requested that Frederick V become their king. But Bohemia was one of the jewels in the crown of the Habsburg dynasties. So this did not sit well with Rudolf's successor, the Habsburg Emperor Ferdinand II. The end of the royal couple's reign soon occurred after Frederick and Elizabeth moved into Rudolf's abandoned palace, and then Ferdinand II decisively defeated Frederick at the Battle of White Mountain near Prague. In consequence of this devastating defeat, Bohemia remained in Habsburg hands for nearly 300 years, and any hopes of a Gnostic confederacy came to a speedy and inglorious end. Okay, well, that's the end of part one of this series. And as an ending, I would like to mention a little bit about the Order of the Seven Rays, because besides being disseminated through Gnostic missionaries who originated in the Gardens of the Dragons, the teachings of this Pleiadian sun I've been talking about were also taught within the Order of the Seven Rays. And this is a order that was founded by Sanat Kumara or Kartikeya to protect and spread the teachings to worthy seekers of wisdom. Although it is currently known more by its popular name of the Great White Brotherhood, the Order of the Seven Rays still exists and continues to spread the teachings of the Pleiadian star missionary that brought them to Earth. And so if you are interested in learning those teachings and learning more about the history, please visit our website to see what books and videos and teachings we offer. The address is at the bottom of your screen. And you can also find out there how you can become a member yourself of the Order of the Seven Rays. And the book that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, World Gnosis, The Coming Gnostic Civilization, can be purchased on the website. And of course, it contains everything that I have spoken about during this video presentation, as well as much, much more. So thank you for watching part 1 of this 2-part series. And please consider watching part 2, as well as all our videos that are currently featured on YouTube. Thank you for watching, and